One. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to today's show. So today we're going to discuss emotional blackmail, and the term means exactly how it sounds. It's a form of manipulation where someone uses your emotions to control your behavior. I'm sure many of us may have been a victim of this, and some people may have applied this type of blackmail on others subconsciously or probably without the ill intent. But some common examples, right, are threats and ultimatums, where someone probably threatens to end a relationship. If you don't do this, I'll leave. Or threatening to harm themselves. You know, if you leave me, I can't live without you, baby. I might hurt myself. I'll go crazy, blah, blah, blah. Threatening to punish you. You know, if you don't do this, I won't buy that, or I won't pay your bills. And this is why I think a lot of men support their daughters being independent and not, just being fully dependent on someone. The guilt trips, making you feel responsible for their unhappiness. Oh, I should have stayed to myself. Oh, I should have done XYZ. You're the only one that can make me happy. Or playing the victim. You could have been a very selfless person and done a lot for someone, but they'll take one instance where you were not able to do something that they asked you to do. And it's, oh, you're so selfish, you never think of me. Or withholding affection, which is not good, of course, especially in marriages where people ration sex. Gaslighting, and by definition, making you doubt your own perception of reality. You know what you saw, you know what happened, but the gaslighting can drive someone crazy. Isolation is also a form of manipulation where they try to cut you off from friends and family. Financial control, limiting your access to money, or using children or loved ones. This happens at times. Or making you feel responsible for their well-being. If you don't do this, it'll hurt the kids or it will hurt our situation. I know that was a lot and a lot of examples, but I want to begin with you, Deborah, and Miss All Hazel. This emotional blackmail, have you ever been a victim of, and do you think that you've ever applied emotional blackmail to someone?
No, I don't do the emotional blackmail. I will give you a choice. You can make your choice because we all have choices, and then I move accordingly. But I'm never emotionally blackmailing anyone because I don't think that's fair. I can't say that I can't recall a time it's ever really happened to me because most people who deal with me understand that I'm probably going to do, if you give me an ultimatum or something like that, I'm going to do exactly what you don't want me to do. So it doesn't make sense to give me
Wait
an
a minute
ultimatum.
now. We'll say what?
And just what I said. If you give me an ultimatum, whatever your goal was to get me to do in that situation, I'm going to do the exact opposite
Intentionally.
intentionally
Why?
because because I don't, the same way I wouldn't put an ultimatum on you. Again, we all have choices. So I can give you a choice that you want to make for yourself, right? And an ultimatum is not me allowing you to make a choice for yourself, technically, like not with the intent that's behind it anyway.
So from the examples that we gave, do you think, has anyone ever attempted to use any of that against you?
Oh yeah, that I mean, one time, which was the last time, which is why I really don't, when a guy starts throwing around money and stuff like that, that's you're probably the first person I'm gonna walk away from. I don't care how much money you have. If you lead with money and stuff like that, like I am out of there quick, fast, and in a hurry. One, because I can take care of myself. And two, because normally people who lead with stuff like that, that's how they like to control other people, is with like finances and things. I had that happen to me one time, and that was the last time, because anybody else who kind of even felt like they were trying to maneuver in that manner, I removed myself.
Mm. And you're saying at no point in time have you ever intentionally or just subconsciously used that emotional blackmail?
Nah, I don't do that. Mm-mm.
Okay. I mean, that's good stuff. It happens. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
it definitely. I mean, I've seen it done plenty of times. But I think growing up the way I did, with my mother being an emotional manipulator to an extent, it really let me know what type of person I didn't want to. Like, there was a lot of things, a lot of traits that she embodied that I didn't want to embody, and that I made sure I did not repeat.
Give me an example, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, like, she, like, the whole condition, like there's, like, I love you with conditions type of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love you I am, as long as you're doing what I want you to do. I'm supportive of you as long as you're doing what I want you to do. But the minute you do what you want to do, I wash my hands of you. I no longer give you any emotion. I shut down on you. That is the extreme epitome of emotional manipulation for me.
Right, 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 right.
And growing up with a mother who did that a lot, it wasn't attractive, and I can't see how it could be attractive in a relationship. And so it's just something that I chose not to do. If I can't, like I said, if we can't talk about it, and I can't give you the opportunity to make a sound choice that you want to make for yourself, then it's not worth like trying to get you to decide. That's just how I feel.
So we have a few guests that came in. Lizzie, hello. Please have a seat. Jermaine, what's going on? Welcome. We're talking about emotional blackmail, and we gave a few examples, where people use just like threats and ultimatums, or the manipulation and control through finances, or just your emotions, basically. The entire gaslighting situation, just different threats to end a relationship. And I think that, I want to hear from you all. Have you ever been a victim of emotional blackmail? And do you think that you've ever applied that to someone?
Hmm.
We all ears, Jermaine. Do you think you've been a victim, or have you ever done that to someone? And we gave examples earlier, like people make threats to end a relationship. If you don't do this, I'll leave you, or if you don't stay, I'll hurt myself. Or they make threats to harm themselves. They make threats to punish you. And it doesn't have to be in a relationship. Deborah gave a good example where she experienced emotional blackmail from her parent. And
Oh, it's not. It's not. It's not that I can't speak on. It's just the fact is, I could damn near, I could damn near be a doggone teaching on it based on what I experienced in my marriage.
mm,
I got gaslighted so bad I tried to kill myself.
oh man,
So yeah. So when you say manipulation in the marriage, I can write a book on that.
that's well, wow, that's devastating. But I don't want to downplay your situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard because, typically our rule on the show is out of respect for, when we talk about relationships, out of respect for that person, we try not to go into specifics or details, because the person is not there to defend themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times they're going to have a different version, but that's bad that you were a victim of it, man. How did it feel? Not in detail.
Actually, I have proof. I actually have receipts, but it's all good.
No, I'm asking though, when you're the gaslighting, I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen it happen to where it literally drove a person insane.
Yeah, almost did. I mean, because I was at a psychological low point at the time because that was when I had just got back from Iraq. So, I wasn't in, at that time I was dealing with undiagnosed brain injury. So it's like I didn't realize, why it was hard for me to interpret certain things, and all that did was frustrate me with myself. And then, then she started doing stuff like this and then would tell me, well, if you're not able to do this, that's your lack of manhood. And I'm like, and at that time I really couldn't fight it because it's like, I really didn't, like I said, when I came back from Iraq, like I said, my military career was over and my athletic career was over. So I was at a very low point. So I was kind of leaning on somebody to be my support system. And well, they kind of, well, you're not over there anymore. Get over it, and it's
Mm.
like, you're not fixing stuff 'cause you don't want to, and then when you start telling, the kids this stuff, then, then it becomes a problem. But,
So there was no empathy.
none.
And this ties back. I know it seems like we keep revisiting this, Deborah, and to our listeners, where women want men to be emotionally available, and they talk about emotional intelligence, and we're very, very, very selective with who we are emotionally available to or with.
And
So,
and I understand that, right? But like also for me coming from what I came from, right?
Mhm.
That also put a lack of trust in people for me to feel like, I could be or it could be safe to open up emotionally as well. And it took a lot of work and courage, honestly, for me to really get to a point where I could openly be that way. And really just knowing and discerning that, people are going to be who they are, they're going to do what they do. But as long as I ultimately take care of me, you know what I'm saying? As long as I keep me in the forefront, when those type of situations arise, I don't get stuck in situations like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, this is my exit point. This is now that I see it, it's time for me to go.
Coach
But
Deb, I got
then
a
when
question.
I
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but then when I see that I'm dealing with someone who allows for that safe space, you know what I'm saying? I don't really hold back out of fear of doing so. I'm going to give it. And depending on how you take it and what you do with it, it's just going to let me know who you are and if I should continue. Like it doesn't have to be something that I have to hold so dear and so near and so, be so closed off with everyone about.
Right, right. Well, do you understand what Jermaine was experiencing and how,
I do.
yeah, traumatic. And Jermaine,
I
I
want to ask
do.
Deborah. I want to ask Deborah.
go
Was
ahead.
there? And I know this is real bad for me, but when you were going through that, was there a point where it's like you really didn't know how to respond because you were between confused and hurt?
Well, only with my mom because it was, I was raised, respect your parents, all this. So there was a hard, like I am very, I'm a very blunt person, and I speak my mind very, like, very clearly, regardless of how it make anybody feel. But I am that way now. I had to get to be that way because when dealing with my mom, I didn't feel like I could speak up or, like who the hell I'ma tell?
Yeah,
You
that's
get what I'm
understandable.
saying? Like who I'ma tell? Who I'ma confide in that's gonna go against my mama? Everybody in the family was scared of my mama. So like who am I really who's really gonna save me in this moment?
That's something.
And so I put my head down. I knew she wanted that high school diploma. I made sure I gave it to her a whole year early. You get what I'm saying? And I
Mm-hmm.
got the hell on.
So she kind of pushed
Hold
you
on, guys.
away.
Hold on.
Yes. Understood. Well, Jermaine,
What up?
yeah, your example, welcome. We have a few others in. Dale is here. Welcome, Dale. Felicia, welcome. Please feel free, Dale. You can tap any one of the call in numbers, press any one of the buttons to join us and share your experiences if you would like to. And this is something that we're just discussing, that we're talking about, and the effects of this emotional blackmail. But what I was sharing, Jermaine, I've seen a situation where this happened, and like the gaslighting is worse when the person has a committee, when they have others with them, and it was a situation where the victim was being attacked by their spouse and friends and family of theirs and the spouse. So
I didn't have that problem. But what it was though, when I got back, I was so isolated from everybody. She was
right.
like my only source.
And so the one person that you felt you could confide in, you feel was not there for
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, one thing about that is, and I had to learn the difference between sympathy and empathy, right? And of course, a person, no matter how hard they try, it's impossible to go beyond sympathy unless they've really experienced it, right? So
Just get over it though. That's
no, I know that's wrong. They can still express sympathy, but it's different when someone is empathetic, when they've been there. So for me, as bad as this makes me feel, and as much as I would try to be there and understand, I've never been in the military. I've never been to Iraq, right? I've been in shootouts. I've been around from some crazy situations. I've been held at gunpoint, just situations, but being in isolation, being thousands of miles away from your family and loved ones. And then I know it's a whole lot more at stake emotionally. So I'm never trying to downplay your experiences. And I also know the reality. A lot of men, former athletes, we go through our Al Bundy phase, right? We remember the game with our 4 touchdowns against Polk County High.
Pope.
So, so I too, and other friends of mine, people handle it differently, you know,
Well, we had this conversation. I think I told you before. I think the part that was hard for me though was I had a professional career and it came to like a screeching halt.
that hurts the most because there's no plan B, right?
Yeah.
Or you didn't anticipate that ending. So that can be traumatic.
I was thinking about when I get back home, I'm starting to run for the next Olympic Games
And then you end up with a
with that leg injury. That was it.
severe injury. So
It was all over.
yeah, that's really traumatic. And I will say when I was younger, I definitely may have done a couple of these things when I was younger. So
My bad.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying because it's kind of funny. I was watching because the Olympics. I was watching the track and field, and I watched the 400, and I was thinking to myself. I said, at my PR, I could have came in eighth in that heat, man.
Oh, right. Just
'Cause
thinking about what could have. Listen, man, and I think Dale is probably busy, but he's here. If he could take a seat, that's something that, and you know how it is when in being
yeah,
in South Carolina, we had a lot of guys that played professional sports, right?
dude, I was 45 before I got out of high school.
See, so we all went through watching guys that we played against and people that we outperformed, but they made it to the NFL, or they played at a Division I SEC schools, ACC schools. They made it in the NBA. They made it to the NFL.
In the
And
low country USC, you should be used to that.
yeah, but I got over it quickly because I knew why I did not, I was not that person, you know, unlike you guys, I never applied myself. And I don't have a problem with being honest with myself. I never applied myself. My size was
My
natural.
bad attitude was a factor too. So it's like, hey, I'm not all the way clean. I was arrogant as hell.
But that helps with understanding, hey, I didn't make it because of me. It wasn't anyone else's fault. Like I didn't lift weights. I didn't work out. I didn't do anything but show up. So, sometimes I was like, man, had I done this,
You're one of them.
yeah, like had I done this, had I done that, I could have been here. Right.
If you just would apply yourself.
Yeah, apply myself, but it's spilled milk. But man, I really hate that you experienced that. And we have other guests that have joined us, and welcome you all. We're talking about emotional blackmail, and the term just deals with, people utilizing your emotions to get over on you, and they make threats or give you ultimatums, things you feel you have to do. And then sometimes in relationships, we do. Hey, Sage, welcome. And also not only in relationships, well, not like emotional relationships, but like relationships with your parents or your siblings. But when it comes from your parents, that's hard, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard. So Deborah, again, thank you for that example. But I'm thinking about the isolation part. I've experienced that as well, where, I dated someone and they found something wrong with every one of my friends except like the ones that they felt they had access to or they could control. But I think that being a victim of isolation is more prevalent because you don't really see it as being bad when you're going through it. Because when you're in a
Like
new
compared to,
relationship, yeah, when you're in a new relationship, who do you want to spend most of your time with?
of course.
But that person. So it's like, hey, it's us. And especially when it gets to the point of a marriage, it's like forsaking all others,
Yeah.
you know. So I can understand why that happens easily, and we don't realize it until if the relationship ends. And then it's like, oh man, I've basically thrown away this number of years. I was away from everybody, only you. So that happens. Now, the part where it says using children or loved ones, threatening to take away children. I was a young parent, so I was a victim of that. And
No, that was my one greatest fear.
yeah, we can joke about it. And it's not like I'm talking about my son's mother in a bad way because we're the best of friends. I wasn't the best of friends, but we're good friends. So we can laugh and joke about what we went through because we were young, you know. She was 16, I was 18, and I turned 19, and just trying to figure things out, you know. And of course, there were times she'd get upset with me, but she didn't do it often, maybe once or twice. I will be honest and say that because being a young parent, she wanted her freedom. She wanted to do the things that she wanted to do. And I wanted her to enjoy herself because I felt bad. Like I stripped a part of her life by making
Yeah,
her
exactly.
a mother.
Exactly.
So yeah, you
You
can
did the
drop
best
them
you
off.
could.
Yeah, yeah.
You couldn't carry it, but you tried to do the best you could by her.
But she knew that if she ever wanted to make me angry or upset, just keep me away from my son because that was what I lived for, you know, in
Well,
college.
every
And we
woman
did,
know her. Every woman know her man's weakness, though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is something. Frank, welcome in. Welcome. Please take a seat. You can touch one of the call in buttons and getting everyone caught up. And for our late listeners, we're just talking about the emotional blackmail, and how it is a form of manipulation. They use your emotions to control your behavior. And a lot of times we've been victims. And I think that sometimes we may have done this to others more than we are willing to admit or accept, and I'm just looking through the examples.
So, Slippy,
Yes.
can you hear me? No, well, hold on. Sage, can you hear me?
Sage is in. I think she may have her microphone muted, but
Yes, she does. I was gonna say because remember I mentioned about the guy that she dealt with that I was actually privy to that, with the whole threatening to kill herself, all of that. Like that was like she experienced that firsthand. I was just a bystander to it. So like this would I just wanted her to touch on that because this would be a good topic for her to touch on that
and I want to say this. So withholding, yes,
one. Oh, she's there. What did you say?
I knew she was muted. Yes, Sage. So, so we were giving
So
examples of this.
I had mentioned to them stage about remember Rashad?
Hey, we don't need a name.
You're Rashad.
We don't need a
So
name.
what's the only way she gonna know? Well, remember Crybaby? Remember Crybaby? Yes. Yes. Okay. So Crybaby is who we were talking about the whole emotional manipulation thing. And I let them know how I was privy as a third party to your situation with Crybaby. But because we are on emotional manipulation, I figured maybe you could touch on how that was for you firsthand.
Yeah, that was difficult because I think that people that try to emotionally manipulate other people recognize that they usually have a big heart, and so they try to use that against you, but it really is a dangerous and a slippery slope. And I really agree. I think it was Koshon who mentioned that how like in the beginning it doesn't like the isolation doesn't you don't really see it as abuse or as narcissism, or as something that is negative because you believe that you're trying to build something with a person, which
Right.
requires a certain amount of focus and attention, but I do believe also that you somewhere deep inside you feel that you recognize that it's not, that it's not right. And for me, I'm a person that's I'm very direct, I'm very straightforward, and I will give you the world, I'll give you my heart. But once I feel like you're trying to use that to manipulate me, like my emotions are my own. That's why they call my emotions, my self control, my self esteem, but it's my responsibility. So, realizing that and coming into that was really important. But when I realized that about a person, I really just pull back all the way and it becomes a different experience. So, the person did try to like manipulate me to like come back into what was ultimately an abusive relationship. And, and I wasn't going for it. So, that's it. And I don't, so I think suicide is a very serious thing. So I definitely told him to get help and to do that. But when he kept crying and saying he wasn't going to get help and he was going to do it, I said, well, God damn it, go on then. 'Cause I got shit to do.
Don't send a man out there like that.
Yeah. Because after a while, like, you're just not going to keep doing that to me, and I
Did you
really,
give him the outcome that he wanted, like the response that he wanted?
no.
Mm.
No, the response would have been for me to show up, for me to come running, for me to be the savior and to save you from yourself once again because you can't do it. And I honestly, I believe in people too much to ever do that to them or for them.
Oh man. Frank, welcome. Frank and Ms. Jackson. We're talking about emotional blackmail today. And we gave some examples, and we would like to know if you've had some experiences as a victim, as the instigator or initiator of, and if you would like to share that with us, please, at this time.
Ms. Jackson.
Hey, you all, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, that's perfect because I'm on this Android device and I feel like sometimes we're not winning.
We are.
Girl, we winning. Girl, we start winning because
We're
I
winning.
sound good, so we win.
I appreciate that because one time I was like staticky, but yeah, what she just said resonates so much with me because I was in the same position where I stayed in a relationship because of the life threatening. If you're not going to stay with me out in my life, and when that didn't work for him, he basically told me he'll end mine, and that's when I decided this is too much. This is this is far too much for me. So yeah, it was difficult. I was very young. I thought that was my life partner, my husband, my everything. But it got very tragic, and it's so crazy how what she just said was my identical story.
And it lets you know how many people really experience that, and on such a deep level, and you never really know unless you speak about it, because so many people don't speak about it because it's so for some people it's the shame of wanting to admit that you had even allowed yourself to be in a situation like that with someone,
And
so
that's exactly what it was for me. Not appearing weak to my family and friends. Like, how did you even deal with that? Like, I thought you were stronger than that. I didn't want to hear that. I thought you were better than that. I thought you were stronger than that. How did you even deal with that?
right, I didn't raise you to take that type of stuff from people.
Right. And I got a phone call from my mother. I just remember so clear. I got a phone call from my mother basically 3 years after it happened, asking me, did it happen? And I just broke down in tears because I was like, I thought it was behind me, but things like that tend to follow you until you find resolve. And I didn't know what to tell her. I was like, yeah, Ma, that happened, 3 years ago, but I'm here. I'm good. We're good. And she was just very sad for me. And I just remember that feeling of how I felt when my mother called me.
Hmm. That's
That's, I mean, my heart goes out for that.
Same. And I was gonna say my best friend is actually also here with me, talking and chiming in. And he had asked me, like, as Miss Jackson, kudos to you, Miss Jackson, for sharing your story. Thank you, Queen. And he was saying, like, were you ever threatened? Did he ever say like he would kill you? And I was saying like that is the slippery slope because I was never like threatened like you were going to kill me. But the first time that I did run to him, Koshon, that I did show up, like
hmm
to be an emotional support, to be like, all right, we can get through this. I know this is difficult, but we can get through this. He tried to kill both of us actually that night. And,
Oh God.
so after that, I was just like, yeah, no, I'm done with this. And, that was the moment that I had to like really step away from it and not go back into it. So when you call me telling me that you're going to kill yourself, I'm not going down with it.
That's very, very, I mean, that's something that's very, really sad, with all parties involved, because even, of course, for the victim, right, the aggressors, the instigators, because they're in a bad space and they too need help, because when a person's willing to hurt themselves and hurt others, that's dangerous and very unpredictable. And I'm looking at these definitions and I'm just trying to think, like, I don't think, like, I may have given ultimatums. Well, I don't even know if I can describe it as an ultimatum, because we all have non-negotiables. So that's something that we all can discuss, because is a non-negotiable considered an ultimatum, or is that something like, you've discussed prior to? I saw a viral video where a guy filed for divorce because his wife went out dressed inappropriately. But he said it's something that he had discussed prior to. He told her how he felt about it, and she started being around some coworkers and went out dressed a certain way. He asked her where she was going. She said he's insecure, whatever. She left. When she came back, the doors were locked. Locks were changed. And he filed for divorce right then and there. He said that's the one strike. He called her parents. He called her parents, said this is what happened. I explained to her she can have her friends and the marriage is over.
Um,
Yeah, that was, it seemed a bit extreme, but he said, that, hey, that was his non-negotiable, you know? And I think back to, like, relationships as a kid. I didn't have a lot of what I call relationships. And Damon likes to say, well, Tank, he likes to say relations is not the same as a relationship, but I'm trying to think of, and I don't think I've given ultimatums. I've always been like, hey, just don't let me hear anything, because if I hear something or find out that you're doing something, our relationship is over. And I don't know if that's considered an ultimatum or just explaining what's understood to be a non-negotiable. Maybe that's something that we can discuss later. Frank, what do you want to share with us, Frank?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Well, I just have one thing to say is that relationships normally comes along with patterns. Sometimes we pick just the one little thing about a person that is good, but we don't do the overall homework on that person. The signs are there. It depends on what you are willing to put up with. The signs are there. The patterns are there. So if you've been abused, the patterns are there. People let you know who they are the first 5 minutes of a conversation. Believe it.
So, ladies, Tell me, do you think like these men just changed, or did our emotion blur the vision of those red flags? Because Sage, you and Miss Jackson, I'm not trying to signal you out, but because your experiences were different, do you think that that guy changed, he transformed into someone different, or maybe he was that way all along and the good kind of outweighed the bad, so you overlooked those signs?
If I may, Koshon, thank you for asking that. That's a great question. I believe a little bit of both. Some people, not all people, but some people do send their representative and they show a thing initially and then they kind of switch it up and then they're not that person afterwards. But, you can't really hide who you are for too long. So with, at least in my situation, not only did he definitely never present like a violent person at all, like in any way, shape, form, or fashion, just very cool, very accommodating, helpful, things of that nature. But once he felt emotionally threatened, it turned into something very different. But also, and just me being perfectly honest, you know, it was also a situation of convenience at the time. I was very young. That was probably like, you know, over 20 years ago, and I definitely did stay in it for a matter of, convenience at the time. And so you do ignore red flags sometimes just to deal in a situation. And then, I want to say also that when you do that, and in any situation, you hold a certain amount of responsibility. You hold a certain amount of accountability for what you allow yourself to deal with also.
Mm. Miss Jackson, were there any flags or any signs that you feel you ignored? I think her microphone might be on mute. We'll wait until she joins in.
And I will say, like, the taking accountability part is really probably the biggest part to help you really get past like a lot of what was experienced in those situations, because the moment that you are able to take accountability for staying, right, for accepting, it gives you a level of awareness where you can then say to yourself, like, okay, I did that, but I won't ever do that again. That's where you've learned that lesson, when you can be accountable for how you allowed that situation to take place and show up in your life without setting proper boundaries.
To say, okay, I'm never going back to that again.
Yeah, and make a conscious effort not to. Like because here's the thing, we come in contact with so many people with the same energy in a different body, right? So when you then come in contact with somebody else with that same energy who's just in a different body, that's that moment where you have to discern, like, oh, I've seen this before. I've felt this before. I've been here before. And I said I was never coming back here. So then you got to be mindful to not repeat that same mistake. I ain't going to say it's always easy, but it's needed in order to really not find yourself in those predicaments over and over again.
I agree. And some people say, oh, you need to heal, or that's past trauma, et cetera, et cetera. But, my argument is that our life experiences mold who we are and helps develop our character traits. And we should not want to go back to those things. So I agree with you. If you know what came out of a particular situation, hey, you can say that you're different, but it's just a chance that I don't want to take. And we can, part ways now, and you don't have to change who you are. And like Sage said, sometimes we send our best representative. And the thing about sending a representative is eventually you'll get tired of that if that's not truly who you are.
Yeah, that mask don't fall off.
Yeah, they get tired of faking. And I like that. The mask will
Right.
fall off, which is that's true. It happens. That mask will fall off. But again, it all ties back to the importance of, communication, effective communication, and playing out these scenarios. Now, ladies, I'm not trying to trigger anyone, but just trying to bring some humor to this. What did y'all do to those dudes, man? Had them want to jump off a bridge.
I don't know if we could talk about that here, Koshon. I was finna say, Sage is another level. So, I don't know.
Had the dudes ready to jump off the bridge and take you with them. Mm, yeah.
Now, I will say, wow. And, it's so crazy how you don't even think about situations. But when I was in high school, I was dealing with this older dude who was like 27. He was like almost 30. And I was like 17, y'all.
Grief.
He had a baby with a girl who had like, I knew her. She had she was graduating from high school that same year. And like I started dealing with him. Me and him were working at McDonald's together. That's how it started. Don't ask. I was young. And I dealt with him for a little while. And I remember seeing him, like he told me he wasn't dealing with the baby mother, all of that. I believed that I was young and stupid. And then I wound up pulling up to just a McDonald's one night with my male cousin. And this was a lesson that he taught me that that I never forgot. But we pulled up, we in the drive-through line, and who else do I see pull in, park in a spot, and get out of the car with the baby mother and the baby in tow,
Mm.
holding hands, smooching, kissing up, and I'm getting ready to hop out the car. And my cousin said, "Don't you dare." And I was like, "What you mean? Don't you see?" You know what I'm saying? He was like, "No, you're not." He was like, "You've already seen what you needed to see. So why would you make a scene in this moment? You just need to move accordingly." Right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a lesson in that moment. And I took his advice and I cut everything off. No communication, no nothing. Stopped talking to him. He started actually stalking me. He would pull up to my school, pull up outside of my school, pull up to the neighborhood, all type of stuff. And when I would not relent with like removing myself from the relationship, he actually drove his car off a bridge. Me and his cousin
Hold
were
up,
like
hold up.
really, really,
What happened?
he drove his car off a bridge. He committed suicide.
Oh God.
Hmm.
Wow.
But I didn't think about it because he never threatened it. You get what I'm saying?
I almost said something about that too.
But the stalking was all the red flags that were like, something's not right here. But I didn't think of it like that. Being young, not really knowing, I didn't think of it like that. And I was really close with his cousin, and I hadn't seen his cousin in school for a while. I also hadn't heard from him for a while. One day, I seen his cousin in school again, and I walked up and I'm like, "Hey, where you been?" And I tried to give him a hug, and he like backed up and pushed me away. And I'm like, "What did I do to you?" He was like, "It's your fault. My cousin is dead."
Mm.
And in that moment is when I found out like he had killed himself.
Oh wow.
And I didn't know, again, it wasn't anything he ever said to me that he would do. He just always would like beg for me to, come back, be with him again. He's not going to go back to the baby mother. He doesn't love her, all of that stuff. But he never once said anything about like offing himself. So I never thought that was a possibility.
Oh man.
And
That's
I was young then, and it actually kept me from dating. Like that's what made me stop dealing with older dudes being so young.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
yeah, I'm at a lost for words right there. Tamaria, welcome. And
Hello.
yes, ma'am, we're for our late
I
listeners.
was just going to say, with her story, the first red flag was that he was even entertaining somebody 10 years younger than him.
100%.
That's the first red flag. That's
Hindsight
how
is
you knew.
2020 though,
That's your
right?
first indication that something ain't right with him.
Right.
But of course, because you were young, it was an easy way for him to groom you, because he needed that attention. And he had the baby
with another person that was 4 years younger than him. And then he had
Yeah.
you. And he was like, yeah, I'm playing. I got these girls, you know, they don't know what's going on. And then when you cut off communication, he was like, what happened? Like he lost some of
You
his
lost
control.
control.
Yeah. And that's one thing. That's why I say, like, I know it makes me a little bit more hard
But that's have
to
to be,
deal
you
with.
have to set your boundaries because
Yeah.
people will play with your emotions.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I know it makes me a little bit more hard to deal with, but
Mm-hmm.
being raised by so many men, right? Again, I grew up in a household with 12 boys and there was only 4 girls.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being raised around that much masculinity, but also having them and on multiple occasions, like bring women around,
So
treat
you.
women a certain type of way, and then tell us, you see how I just did her? Don't
Mm-hmm.
you ever allow anyone to do you like these were lessons that
Right.
they instilled in us. They taught us that
Exactly. I had a similar
from young.
situation.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a blessing to, those life lessons,
I was
real.
the first girl in 8 years in the family. So
Mm.
I had my uncle, my youngest uncle's 3 years older than me. The next one is 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and 8 years. So they would be like, I would see what they had going on and they'd be like, you see that? You see that? Well, let them boys play you. So
Mm.
it kind of
Right.
not messed me up, but set me up for how I am now. That's why when I see people going through the dumb stuff they're going through, I'm sitting there like, this story has been played out over and over and over again. Why do you choose to be an actress right now? You already know how this goes. That, kind of get pregnant to keep the man or messing with, oh, she likes me, an older man. I'm like, no, he's playing you and you're not setting your boundary or you're not, you're giving into this emotional manipulation. It plays itself out over and over again. And just like that young man drove himself off of the bridge, when they lose control or things don't go their way or the game isn't played the way or you don't follow the script the way they wanted to, you don't know what kind of mental state they're in and what they're going to do. And that's why I tell people, my cutoff game is strong is you know what. And I don't, like I tell people all the time, I don't play with nobody's feelings and I don't play with nobody's money. And some people might say, you're mean, you're hard, but I'm like, I don't know what another person's mental state is. And I
Right.
don't want to find out the wrong way,
The wrong
you
way.
know?
Yeah.
100%. Yep. I agree with that 100% because if it wasn't for, that's why I said it made it hard for guys to date me because I wasn't, the naive chick walking around with no real guidance as to how to move out here in this world. So I wasn't easily manipulated. And so when you're one, that young and two, not easily manipulated, it makes it very challenging for, guys to get over on you or groom you in the manner that a lot of young women get groomed.
And that grooming is something serious. But what I will say is, and hey, Hook, welcome. Please join us. Take a seat if you have time. What I will say is, and I'm asking how you all feel about this, but a lot of men, we feel like the grooming and victimization is sexually biased. And a lot of times we take things for granted because the things that happen to men, young men, is often dismissed and overlooked. And I know we've talked about this in the past, and oftentimes every year I talk about it. Hook always, we make comments about it jokingly, but we're serious. Every year during prom and graduation, when women are posting their sons, women openly say, oh, how fine he is. Look at my little husband. Look at my boyfriend. Oh, you better keep an eye on him. He's
Yeah,
in
that
hot.
irritates my soul.
And imagine one of us, a grown man, saying that about your daughter when you post your daughter for prom.
Exactly.
We're a pedophile. We're R. Kelly. But think about how often and openly women do the same thing.
Yeah, I understand. I say that all the time. I'm like, that's your son. Why would you talk to him as if you're having relations with him? That's an Oedipus complex. I don't get it, and I
Yeah,
don't understand why people do it. And
it's
I'm like,
crazy.
yeah, okay, it's a handsome young man, but you don't need to sexualize your son. you know,
Right.
that is crazy to me.
Now, one thing that I think I may have been, I'm looking over these definitions again, right? And one of the things where they talk about with the emotional blackmail is making you feel responsible for their unhappiness. But what if you are responsible for their unhappiness? Should they
Mm.
not tell you? Like if you're in a relationship with someone, you love this person, right? Just hypothetically speaking, Jermaine is dating Miss Jackson and he loves her. He loves the way he feels around her, but for some reason, their relationship is going astray and she is like, yo, we need some time apart. Is he wrong for saying, baby, you know, this will break my heart, or I love you, or I'll be hurt without you? Is that wrong? Or is he just being honest?
No, I mean he's being honest. He's expressing his feeling. He's not threatening to kill himself or do anything. He's letting her know how he feels.
But he also has to understand that
She has her feelings too.
she has her feelings too. That's a good, because I'm like, they're saying that's emotional blackmail and he's trying to manipulate her. But that, I don't think it's manipulation when you're speaking the truth. Like you're in love.
Hmm.
Hey, I'm sorry. Even in your case, Deborah, he might have been wrong. And I will say this as a man, he may have been wrong and may have talked to someone else. That doesn't mean that he does not want to be with you and does not love you. You know?
Right.
He didn't think you
Um,
would see him at wherever you bumped into him. He didn't think that the
he didn't
relationship would
even
end.
know. Yep, he didn't even know. He never even knew that I seen him that night.
So he never got any closure. He just knew like cut.
And then you cut him off and everything he thought, is now over. And it could have been something innocent. No, we're not even
It
go
wasn't.
back through that.
It wasn't because prior to that, right? Prior to that, he had gave me the keys to his apartment. I had already walked in on him and her, which was the first time that I was promised it would never happen again.
Oh, okay.
That's why I said you young, you believe it, you're going. And then when I seen it the second time was when I was in the car with my cousin. And so of course in that moment I was really about to flip a lid. And my cousin was like, no, you are not. No, you will not. and
Thank God your
and
cousin was
and the
there.
fact that he right and the fact that he in that moment made me realize that I was in control of my emotions and I would only be embarrassing myself by even entertaining and putting myself in the middle of that situation. That really brought me back down to earth and let me know I have to, these are one of the moments where you learn how to choose you over what the situation is presenting to
Right.
you.
Mm-hmm. Hook.
And
I want
so when you say really quickly, when you say that someone can be responsible for someone else's happiness, I don't I don't truly agree because yes, I can be the reason why you are unhappy, right? If I'm doing things to make you unhappy, but if like I'm not choosing to stay anywhere I'm not happy at. Like I can make me happy. So if being with you is making me unhappy, then that's an easy fix. I just X you out the picture. Now I can make myself happy.
to. Right. And he has to understand that someone is going to be unhappy. And then guys will say, hey, what am I doing that's making you unhappy? We were happy together at one point in time. I made you happy. What can I do? If I never speak to her again, will that work? If I do X, Y, Z, will that work? And then they start, that whole process. And I can see how the cycle continues. But like Tamara said,
Right,
setting
because
boundaries.
but when you're asking as a guy, when you're asking those things, right? You're not really taking accountability for your actions because you're asking her what she wants you to do in order to make y'all happy again, instead of you recognizing, like, if these are the things that's making her unhappy, I need to make this change. I don't need to ask her what I need to do. If she's already told me what the things are, I don't need to ask her I don't need to tell her, what do you want me to leave her alone? No, I want you to make that choice to leave her alone. I don't want you to leave her alone because that's what's making me unhappy.
Mm.
I want you to be faithful here because that's what you want to do. And that goes back to when I said, I don't give an ultimatum. I give a choice. I'm not happy here. You're dealing with other people. So you can make the choice to continue to deal with these other people, right? That's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to make the choice to leave this situation. There's
I
no
like that.
ultimatum there. It's just choices all around the board.
I like that. Choice over ultimatum.
Yeah, choice over ultimatum. Give people the choice because they're going to choose whatever they feel in that moment is going to is best for them or what's going to make them happy, which is going to ultimately let you know where you need to proceed at with how you make your choice.
And so I want to say that every ultimatum is a choice. Like when we say either you do this or I'm leaving,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you the choice. So it is an ultimatum, but it still opens up a choice for you to choose your next direction. Like, what do you want to do? So for those that the goal is marriage, if you don't marry me in 6 months, I'm going to leave you. And they're like, oh, so now you putting this ultimatum on me? But that's giving you a choice to say, in the next 6 months, do I see myself with this woman for the rest of my life or do I want to move on? So at the end of the day, ultimatums are just simply choices.
Beautifully explained.
And they are, but how you deliver the choice, right? How you present the choice doesn't have to come off as an ultimatum.
Right.
You
It
know,
can be harsh.
baby, I want to
It
be
can be,
married in
it
the
can be
next six
aggressive.
months,
Right.
right? I want to be married and I would like to be married in the next 6 months. So do you see yourself being there? Because if not, then I have a choice to make.
Exactly. And I feel like that's where we could do better because a lot of times it does come off aggressive. Like what I just said, like if you don't marry me in 6 months, I'm out of here. Like what you
Right.
just said sounds a lot more like a discussion of, hey babe, this is where I want to go with you. In 6 months, I would like to be married because after that, I would like to have a child or whatever your goals are. If that's not aligned with what you see, I am going to have to leave you.
Mm. For me, then I want to get
And I
hooked.
wouldn't even say
Communication.
I'm
That's
going to have
effective
to leave you,
communication.
right?
There you
Because
go.
given that little inkling, I'm going to have to leave you, gives them the opportunity to do something that they may not really want to do just to keep you around, to keep you. And some people will do that. They just want to have you. They just want access to you. So some men might marry you because they want to keep that access. I'm not going to tell you I have to leave. I'm just going to tell you that lets me know I have a choice to make. The choice, I know what
Right.
that choice is for myself. You ain't got to know what that choice is for me though, because you ain't got to make it for me.
Hmm. Let me take a break right quick. Hook, just getting you caught up, and we have a few other callers that are here. Chef Leo, we're
I'm
talking
just so happy to
about
be here.
emotional blackmail, and right now people are sharing their experiences when it comes to emotional blackmail, if they've been a victim of it or the initiator or aggressor, and we're getting some really, really interesting experiences here and I want to thank you all for being transparent and sharing these things. I definitely want to thank you for that. So Hook, if you have something that you would like to share with us, please feel free.
Yeah, sure. Hope everybody's doing okay. I know I came in on the tail end, but just piggybacking on the last two young ladies who spoke, talking about ultimatums. I don't do ultimatums. Like it's like it's when you, let me put it this way. I think that anytime you put a time frame on anything, that's an ultimatum. An example that was given was, hey babe, I'd like to be married in 6 months. To me, that's an ultimatum because you're putting time on it, even though you didn't necessarily say, hey, in 6 months, if we ain't married, I'm leaving you. You know what I'm saying? Because like maybe I want to marry you, but maybe for whatever reason, 6 months may not be realistic. And I think at that point, that's when you start talking long term in terms of where the relationship is going. And I guess I'll use an example with my wife. When she and I first got together, we were dating 5 years before we married. She she didn't give me an ultimatum, but I knew I was on the clock. She basically, when we first got together, she basically said, "Hey, I'm dating with intent. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste mine. I'm not saying that I'm not giving you a time frame, but I do want to let you know that I like where this is going, and I do want to be married. You know what I mean? So, and she didn't, and I felt the same way, and we had thought about marriage previously, but when she said that, internally in my head, I'm like, hey, man, I got to get my shit together. And it's my bad. I ain't mean to swear.
Yeah, no, you good, you good.
I have to get my stuff together. So I gave myself in my head 8 months to, and this isn't a conversation she and I had, but with her simply saying, hey, this is where I am. This is what I see. And these are my expectations. And that's when I started planning and getting things together financially and all these other things. And then at the end of my time frame that I selected, I proposed to her, but I knew that I was on the clock. But I think when you put a time frame on it, when you say, hey, and if you don't propose to me by year number 2, I'm out. Or I think that at that point, you just have to, as the couple, you have to talk, you have to decide, okay, where is this relationship going? Do you want to be married? Yes. Do you want to be married? I do. Okay. So, you don't necessarily have to give a time frame, but I think it's important to really talk about those things. And I think that depending on the flow of the conversation with any man, they know they're on a clock. And I would prefer that women do that, because that if the man knows that he don't want to be married, he needs to let you know that he don't want to waste your time. But what happens a lot in ultimatums is that men will accommodate that at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not doing it genuinely or sincerely. So if you want to be married in 6 months, you tell this man, hey, I want to marry you in 6 months, and you guys have a wedding 6 months later. If if he's not ready, I mean, that marriage is doomed to fail. So I think that you have to be careful about putting a time frame on a lot of things.
Ladies?
I
I just
actually agree. I agree with Hook. I wouldn't put a time frame on stuff. Hold on, let me close my door because my son playing his Oculus. I wouldn't put a time frame on anything like marriage or anything like that, because I am a person who likes to just kind of flow with where everything is going. I don't need to rush into any particular thing with anyone. D- Having the conversations, yes, I'm always open and willing to do that, but I'm not putting a time frame on it at all, because at that point, just like Hook said, it turns into an ultimatum when you set that time frame. And if it's something that you want for yourself, it doesn't have to be broadcasted to your mate, to anyone,
right, but if
because
you
that's a
it
time frame that
shows
you're setting
effective
for you.
communication,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
and that's the best thing for any relationship. You know
Yes.
how where this person stands. You know where this person. You know what their goals are. You know what their intentions are. The time thing. It's kind of it just kind of depends, because you may say I want to be married, and then this person may want to take 10 years to do that. So you still, and that still goes along with effective communication. But as time goes on, and as you progress, as things change, you have to keep the lines of communication open so everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what everybody wants. And then, like you said, you make your choice from there.
I think with my mindset, my problem, it may not be a problem. I equate relationships with the work environment so equally. So if you've been with a company for like 3 years and your boss comes to you and you've been there for 3 years, they've seen what you got and they say that you're not performing up to normal standards. You have 6 months to get your stuff together, or you will no longer be with that company. You still have a choice to either get with the program and do what it aligns to do to be with that company, or find another job. And that's how I take it to relationships. Like I feel like work, and for those that aren't business owners, I feel like when you work for someone in the corporate environment is so equal with relationships that it just aligns. Like if your boss really comes to you and say, "Hey, this is your performance review," and I feel like relationships should have a performance review. Hey, we've been together for 3 years, and this is where you've been great. This is where you've lacked, and I need to see a change in this time frame, or
But
you are, you know, that's how companies
Yeah, but
work.
that's something that you would have to communicate because
can I?
I guess because I'm not an employee, so that wouldn't work for me. But that is
You're
that's
going out,
part of
Jamaria.
communication.
I don't know if you're
Yeah,
on
it
Wi-Fi or
sounds
something, Jamaria.
choppy.
Oh, sorry, I'm traveling.
Okay, go
But
ahead,
but
Frank.
I always, yeah, I
You
just
said-
Jamari,
feel like relationships that should still have that checkpoint. Like, hey, how are we doing? Like, how am I performing in this relationship? Like, what should I do better? Where am I thriving? Where
Yes,
can I be better?
I like
And
that.
why can't you express those things? Just like at the job.
Jamaria,
Hmm?
I got your point, but
Hmm.
it's like an unfair point. The example you use like a totally unfair example. That's just like saying you will respect your boss like you would respect your spouse or your significant other.
Right. I mean, I understand. I get what she's saying, but I'm
That's
just
just
saying,
like that's just like saying if someone's sick and you can't perform, do you give where I want to use it? I mean, it's so unfair because that example is totally unfair. You're placing work with especially with women. I
Not
wouldn't expect a
not
woman. You
not
guys go
work.
through so much emotional. You guys go through so many emotional ups and downs where sometimes your spouse, that guy you're dealing with, he has to be almost a mind reader. So that's why I think that's unfair. The example you use, work and home. Home should be where it's never on a scale. It's never judged.
right, that's your safe
Not
haven, and it
judge,
should
but
be
a fully
unconditional, and it
communicating.
should be the communication.
Yeah, the communicating home and the communicating job. I'm saying performance only.
Yes.
Just
Hmm.
the same way you perform at your job. I'm not saying the scale of if this person's get sick. I think I heard you trying to say that. I'm saying
Hmm.
your performance as a employee or your performance as a partner.
Is measured.
It is measured. If we're together for a year and you're not, if we're having these communication and you say, babe, where can I be better? Where am I great? And we can have these discussions. And I'm saying, you know what? You're knocking A, B, C, D out the box. But E, F,
Okay,
G,
Yeah, you should do
there,
that. I mean,
there's some
that's
let
room.
me
effective
There's some
communication.
room in E, F, G.
Mr. Coach on. Let me go a
Yes.
little deeper with that. And this is directed to the women. Let me go a little deeper to that. And nobody say a number. Nobody. I'm not asking for a number. I'm not asking for a number. But ladies, for every man you've been with physically, you take a little bit of that man with you into your other relationships. So that's why I say
Okay.
it's unfair. That's why I say it's unfair to use the job example to a scale of a relationship example. That's why I say that. Because it's funny to hear a woman say that. Because, well, no, it's just funny to hear a woman say that. I respect that. But for every guy you've been with, you take a piece of him that maybe was a good thing. And now that other person who you're with now is put on a scale to what you won't allow and what you will allow.
And that's the same in the work.
So
I'm glad
that's
you
why.
said that. It's exactly the same in the work. So if I was with a company that did something, I'm going to take a little bit of that job with me. I
Yeah.
know what I will allow in my professional career and I know what I won't allow in my professional career. So you just align exactly with what I said.
Because we do compare jobs. The first thing,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
think about, oh man, we had this at this job. We were able to do that at that job.
I'll never be in that role again because when I was in that role,
At this
ABC
place,
happened. I
yeah,
will
yeah,
never
yeah,
do that
yeah.
again. So we do the same thing in our work environment that we do. You know, so the relationship is more on a love and a passionate level, but it's almost identical to our work environment. We still do the
Yeah.
same thing.
You have educated me because I'd never made that comparison, but I do understand and respect what you're saying. Because with
I
me, I gave
completely.
I gave Uncle Sam 24 years. I gave Uncle Sam 24 years, and I've never took my work home with me. I've always had a way to separate that.
Same.
So you've educated me.
Same. I'm not saying taking work home. I'm saying the correlation of a work relationship and a physical love
Yeah, a performance
compatibility
measure.
relationship. I'm not saying bringing work home, and I'm not saying take your love to work. I'm saying that the work environment is almost identical to our relationship and our compatibility, into that environment.
I will say
Well,
this,
the
Frank.
reason.
Let me ask this. I
Hmm.
think what she's saying is we have performance indicators, right? Let's say you're dating a young lady, right? You're
Hmm.
dating. She may be the only person you're dating. You could be dating others. If you're dating someone, what factors determine whether or not you propose to her? When do you
Hmm.
go from the dating phase to, okay, this is someone that I'm willing to marry? Are you measuring some things? Are you looking for certain characteristics? What are you,
You are.
I
Koshan,
mean, this
hit it. You just hit it on the
this
nail. You have your,
may or not be the answer you're looking for,
yeah.
Coach. But
No, it's no
when
wrong
I
answer. This.
when I
I'm
first
just asking.
when I first met my wife,
Yes.
when I first met my wife, I knew the
Yes.
first couple of days, weeks, she was wife material. I didn't do a long drawn out. The brother, I think his name is Brother Hook.
oh, I
Was the
hate that
Brother Hook
he's
on the line?
breaking out. He's breaking out a little bit, or is it on my side?
No, he was breaking up, but yes, it
Okay.
was Hook who
Yeah.
who who married
Can
his
you hear
wife
me?
after 5 years. Yeah.
But remember what Hook said.
His story is similar to mine. I dated my wife at a ball. We had a ball, not putting a strain on the marriage with what time we were going to do what. But she did say to me at about 2 years, she said to me, "What's my trajectory of where I want the relationship to go?" So, like Brother Hook, I was also on a timeline, but no one put me on that timeline. It's a relationship is such a beautiful thing when you don't have these timelines and these ultimatums.
You're going in and
That's
out.
one thing biblically God gives
Mhm.
you.
I'm gonna
Franklin,
hit
Lord
that
can
because he's speaking some good stuff.
you're going in and out. I don't
you
know
hear
if
me?
you're on a Wi-Fi or if you're indoors or something, but we can't hear you. You're going in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? I was just mimicking on what Brother Hook said. His story is similar to mine. When I met my wife, there were no when we were going to get married. There were no ultimatums, with no choices, because I've always lived by the fact that, taking it biblically for a second, God gives us one thing no one can ever take away, and that's the right to make choices. It's
Mm-hmm.
your it's your determination on the choices you make. God already knows what your outcome is going to be. You make the choices of getting there, on whether it's going to be easy or whether it's going to be hard. So I respect that queen of what she said. Everything she said is not, but I never looked at it because I never, the comparisons is like way out. Job is where my stability, where I work, where I pay my bills, but my spouse is so much more. So that's why I never done the comparison. But it's an example I would have never used. I thought a woman would never use, because no woman would want anything to be a comparison or anything close to a narrative, even be an example. So that's why I said that.
Have you ever
But
asked your wife that when she met you, what point did she knew that you would be her husband, even though you haven't discussed it and there was no timeline? What point she knew you were her husband?
now, Queen, I'm not.
That's what I'm saying. So things that we know that aren't discussed. So same thing with a job interview. You go in a job interview, you know from the minute that you interview that person, whether they're going to be good for the company or even if they're not great, you might, I'm going to hire this person today. You might see the potential later, like, oh,
Right. Right.
they're better than I thought they were going to be. They
I think,
deserve a promotion. That
yeah,
promotion in a relationship is what?
Marriage.
Marriage.
yeah, but you know what hurts a job? On a job level, when you come to work every day, You're waiting for that promotion and he gives it to somebody that's underqualified than you are.
And that
Yep.
happens a lot. That happens a
And that
lot. So
happens.
And that happens in
it happens.
relationships.
So
That's what the
that's
ladies
an
call dating
anomaly.
down. They call that
Yep,
dating
that's an
down. It's like,
anomaly though. That's
I've
yep.
done all of this for you. I've been here. I helped you. I did X, Y, Z, and you were not ready. And then when you finally get yourself together, you get a good job, you stop gambling, you stop hanging out, you go and marry someone else. Same
Mm,
thing with a job. You've done this, you've done that. And then when the position becomes available, they give it to Bob in accounting,
mm,
you know. So I get both points, but, and Frank was being honest when he just said he never thought about it. I
right.
like
Right.
the fact that
I like that.
the analogy was made because, you know, I think back to when, you know, what made you decide? And just like on a job, we're like, you know what? This person is management material, right? Or in a relationship, this person is marriage material. And what I admire in Hook's scenario, it takes a lot of maturity and self-reflection. I don't know if you all paid attention when he said 5 years. It wasn't that he didn't know that she was the one. He said 5 years to get himself together emotionally,
Mm,
financially, and doing the things. So it's like, I'm not trying to get married and bring her into a struggle marriage. You know,
right.
I commend him for that. And so he could have known that, hey, she's the one early on, but he had to get himself together to be
Yeah,
husband material as well.
you know the only
And
bad
if
thing about
she's
it?
really And if she's really the right woman for him, she's not gonna walk away while he does that. She's gonna have that
Oh,
patience. She's gonna give him that opportunity and that space to grow and be exactly who he needs to be in order for him to feel like he can make that next step with her.
Right. Right.
I
oh,
think the thing of, and for my situation specifically, and you know, my wife, and I'll be honest, it's not like my wife needs me for anything. I mean, she's doing well on her own, and I was doing good back then, but when I saw, you know, what she was doing, you know, what I mean, it only motivated me
Right.
to do that much more. You know what I'm saying? So like, and like, I wanted to be an asset and not a liability. So it wasn't that I delayed because I didn't want to get married. I wanted to get married, but I also knew, listen, I got to step my game up. I got to be able to contribute like a man should, you know, and this wasn't her saying you need to do X, Y, and Z, because we talked about a lot of that. And I said, listen, I don't want to be a detriment to this relationship. You know what I mean? Cause you're doing well right now. But if I get to where I need to be, we can do exponentially better. And and that's why I hate the whole time frame thing. Cause a lot of women, for whatever reason, they think because a man is not, he's, I guess, delaying marriage and not, marrying her when she feel it's a reasonable time frame. Sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with the woman, everything to do with the man and where he is and where he wants to be. And I think that's why that conversation needs to happen, because I was raised, by a single mom, so I knew the struggle of a single mom. My dad didn't do anything for me, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to be that type of man for my girls. So I wanted to make sure I needed, and all the credit in my wife. I know that the man that I am today is not because of me, it's because of her. She motivated me. She pushes me without, and it's never like an ultimatum, or it's never, you need to do better. You know what I mean? It's almost as though she's coaching me, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So, and I can appreciate that in her. And simply made me a better person. Even with that, like, no man is going to marry anyone until he's ready. So no matter what ultimatum you give, no matter how you feel, no matter how long he's been quote unquote employed, like Miss Jackson said, until he's actually ready to make that change, it's not going to happen. And to Miss Jackson's point, she mentioned comparing it to a corporation or a job. The thing is, when you're on the job and you go through that performance review, I mean, when you get put on those performance improvement plans, that's because you're really not putting in the effort or you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But I think that when you're serious about your work, if you're serious about your work, if you're serious about your relationship, like you are about your work, you'll be fine. There are going to be areas of opportunity, but for the most part, that performance review is not going to be needed because you're already doing what you technically need to.
True, true, true.
I agree 100%.
I understand that part too. Yep.
Boy, you gonna eat a big piece of chicken tonight, Hook.
Right. She gonna cook him a big good meal tonight.
The women, I have a
But
question
like
for
the
them.
main thing though, I will say is, the way his wife is with him, that's why I said it's all done in love. And that's why he can reciprocate what she's putting behind him because it's done in love. It's not out of spite. It's not out of, I want you to do better for me. It's all in love for who he is and allowing him to be him and just loving him through that process.
And that's beautiful. But I still have to go back to the job because that's where my, sorry, y'all. So, Hook,
Sorry, look, I tried to put a quick
you,
spin on it.
you get this job at this corporation. You got the job. You're doing amazing at the job. And your boss comes to you and says, I want you to be alongside me. I no longer want you to be my employee. I want you to be my equal. You're going to be a manager. So you're not going to accept that position if you're not ready. You're going to say, no, I'm doing good where I am. Let me do my job. You already told me that I'm great at my job. I'm not ready for that promotion yet. And when I
Much
am
more y'all
ready for
paying?
that
What's the
promotion,
pay?
I will let you know.
Right. What's the pay?
They're not gonna
I'm gonna fake it
do
till I
that.
make it.
Right. A
Baby.
lot of people not turning that
But that's
promotion
what a
down.
lot of people do. That's why there's a lot of marriages that are faking it till they make it. But some people actually say what Hook is saying, like, you know what? I don't need to do that because
But
that's
the
not
good
where I
thing,
am right now. I don't want to accept that position yet because that's not where I am. Let me get right with myself
Right.
and then I'll accept that. I'm ready. I'm ready to take that position, but not now. I feel
but
like it's
that's the
for
good thing
me.
about it. He's expressing that. He's communicating that.
Right.
Some
I feel like
people
this
they
position
get
is
that
perfect for me, but
ultimatum.
not today.
Right.
Right.
Can I ask a question? The young lady who just educated us on the importance of the examples you use on job and relationship. Are you married?
I'm not married.
Okay, so now I'm understanding you now because you're career oriented right now. So if a guy comes and he has all the qualities you need in a man,
No, I'm in
will
a
you?
relationship. I'm not married.
Okay, if I'm just saying, if a guy comes down, even though you're in a relationship, if a guy comes down and he's everything God sent you in a man, will that guy be able to take you away from that job?
No,
Wow, that's why I said there's no comparison because you notice how some relationships, you notice even even the men, they treat their bosses a little better than they treat their wives when they go home, vice versa. The wife, she speaks to the preacher, yes, pastor, no, pastor, and comes home and drag her husband. So
well,
that's
I would
why I
never
never,
drag my guy. Like I'm
but
not
that's,
I'm not married, but
right.
So
But
I wouldn't let my relationship take me from my job, and I wouldn't let my job take me from my relationship.
that's the value our lives have that my life and your life has that is different. Me,
It is different.
whatever money's you paying, it ain't gonna take me away from my wife. It ain't gonna put
Right.
her priority. So I can understand where you're coming from, and I respect that. Do your thing, Queen, because guess what? If you're not sure on three things, and put your job, you put a man before your job, you're not sure on three things, you're gonna be so sad because if you're not sure if you're something to do, a girlfriend, potential wife, you're gonna be so pissed off at yourself if you put him before your job. So do your thing. You know what it takes to make you happy. Your peace. You know where your peace is. So I just love the fact that no one has never break it down the way you break it down today. I'm loving it. But
Thank you, Frank.
with me, paper, the money it's never been a problem in my relationship. The job thing never been. I just feel nothing comes before. If you elect to have someone as a significant other, wife, boyfriend, however you want to put it, if you put that person first, then you have to do some variations when it comes to the job. Even taking a promotion to another state and he's paying you 6 figures, double what you're making, all that comes into play.
See, Frank, I want to separate. So I want to say, even if the job made $0, I want to
Okay.
say that the relationship of a job, having a job, is
Mhm.
almost the same as having a relationship. I'm not saying the money. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm not saying the money of the job. I'm not putting my career over a relationship. I'm saying having a job and what comes with having a job. And that's the same. What you need to do to keep the job and me having a job, I realized over my life, and I just turned 44 in May, I'm like, oh my God, this correlates to what you need to do to keep a guy. Not 100%, but the same thing, the performance, to just showing up, being there, doing what you need to do to keep that, whatever it is, the job, the business, raising
I
your
just
children. I just use the job as an example, but anything you're trying to do, there's still a standard to it. So if the
true. I
job
get
was $0, you're still being rated on a performance in your marriage. She may not be saying it, but y'all are having discussions of what you both need
that's true.
from each
True.
other.
I'm just stuck on that one barrier, one line. I'm stuck on one Mason
I,
line. That's
Yeah, you struck a nerve. You got Frank thinking that
Yeah, not the
his wife
job.
has
'Cause,
a
yeah, not the
4-point
job.
scale
Yeah,
at the
I
house
think
weighing.
job. Yeah, not the career. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, my job is more important than you. I'm just saying. Every time I speak with my boss, I'm like, oh, this is what relationships need. Every time she tells me where I'm driving and I'm so great, and then she tells me where I can be better, I said, if relationships had that. So, cause sometimes we do get in the relationship and we get comfortable. We get married, we get comfortable. I ain't been married, but y'all get married, we get comfortable. But if we had these checkpoints every 6 months, every 3 months, like my boss did with me, we would learn so much from each other. We don't. We don't have these checkpoints where we say, you know what? In the past 3 months, babe, I know you said I do 6 years ago, but how have I been? Tell me, how have I been? How have I been performing? Where can I be better? Where have I been great?
All right,
and
quick
I,
break.
I honestly think, yeah, I honestly think, Miss Jackson, that it's like I see, and no, I mean, y'all know my situation when it comes to marriage, but like I feel like the same way because as people we outgrow things, right? So if you don't check in to know like how you're holding up, how your performance is, relationship or otherwise, job, like it you can lack because you're comfortable there.
And
Right.
Like
that was
it
my
becomes a
only point.
comfortability.
Check,
And anytime you're
check in.
comfortable, you start to lack somewhere. It's
Correct.
just it's human nature.
Yep. And that was my point. Just check in. And also the initial point. I feel like, being a manager, I feel like we weed out employees stronger than we weed out people we date. Like if you're a supervisor or a manager and you have people you're interviewing, we're so hard on them. But then when we're dating, we're like, oh, he did this. Yep. He's my husband. She's my wife. But I feel like if you're in a position in the corporate world, we have higher standards than we have than in our relationship. So we have higher standards on people that we put in a position at our company than the people we choose to spend the rest of our lives with.
Mm.
Preach,
I
sister.
want to take a quick break, not a break, but just to recognize, welcome. We have more live listeners and welcome Miranda. Welcome Deborah. She's trying to take a seat. All of our seats are taken today and, we love it. We love the discourse. I invite new listeners, new callers and always new insight. And Miss Jackson has us on one today and very good perspective, and it is something to consider and something to think about. But again, Frank, nothing personal, but I can understand. This is my big brother. He's been married for several years, and Frank is looking at it like, I wish my wife would put me on some darn. performance scale, but we should, not as literal as it sounds, Tamika, but there should be a scale, not a scale, but say, hey,
Should be some kind of check-in.
yeah,
You're
some
Not a
check-in to say,
scale,
hey,
like you
but
should
how am I
always look to
doing?
progress.
How am I fulfilling to you emotionally, mentally? You know,
exactly.
what do
Let's
you
get out
need
the
from me?
ego box. Let's step down a little bit. Why do we got to feel like we knocking it out the box every day? Let's have the conversation. Like, what am I knocking it out the box every day, babe? Where
And
can I
let's
be
be honest
better?
with each other, honest,
Right.
not judgmental. And you know, we're adults and things change as we get older. I mean, as men, we probably think that we're doing the things we were doing at 19 and 25 years old, but
No.
we're not. And
Not at all.
we don't look the same. Our level of energy, for the most part, is not the same. Our stamina is not the same. So
Mm,
things change. And you know,
mm,
it's being fair, like Outcast said, everything changes.
mm,
Even in women, body parts turn to teardrops, right?
mm.
That
And
happens.
being open to what's said by him or her, and being willing to receive what's said, and not being, judgmental, or playing victim. Like, listen to what the person says. Like, there's nothing wrong with
Communication.
saying, right. Nothing wrong with saying, baby, you are amazing. You're an amazing husband. You're an amazing father. But I feel that you could do this a little bit more. And at that point, you have a choice to do it a little bit more or not.
Right, right. And that's when he's like, baby, I got this thing to the floor. I gave you all I got. So
Right. Not to say.
we're going to have to find some toys, or we're going to, and it doesn't have to be sexually. I'm bringing some humor here. And man, I hate that the 2 hours go by so fast. So just letting you all know, we're down to 6 minutes, you all. But I love the discourse. I love the interaction, and welcome, Deborah. Deborah says, and for our listeners, because they cannot see what's being typed, you know, going back, Deborah was saying how things are all done in love. Hook agrees with you, Frank. Hook said, that's why I don't think jobs and relationships are comparable. And we have Deborah telling everyone hello. Miranda saying hey to everyone. And Tamika, Ms. Jackson, Deborah said, I think you're on to something, Ms. Jackson. She likes that. And just getting everyone caught up, we're talking about performance reviews in a nutshell, you know, in relationships. And I think that we should revisit something that, and I don't think I ever did that in my marriage. I was married for 12 years, and it didn't seem that long. It went by really quickly. But what we did in the beginning was we created a 5-year plan, and that, that really helped a lot. We wrote a 5-year plan on things we wanted to do, and of course things that we had to avoid doing. And we accomplished everything in that 5-year plan. We planned our marriage, we planned the kids, we planned going back to school, we planned getting advanced degrees, and everything happened within the first 5 years. We didn't plan the next 5. And also checking in is very important. Like, hey, how do you feel about this? How am I with that? And being open and willing to receive that discourse, you know.
Right. The same way Savannah had made the statement of you check in on your love languages, right? Or that's a good thing to
Yes.
do, is to check
Yes.
in on your love languages, because as you move through life, after certain situations that you encounter and you go through
And it
and you
changes that love
experience,
language.
yeah, it changes
Yeah.
what your love language may be. So why is it so bad to think that we could also do a check-in on our performance in the relationship with the person that we're with? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I agree with that. And for, you know, our listeners today, we had been talking about love languages and how life experiences can change that love language. And I think that at a point in time, you know, material items and gifts or whatever the correct terminology is, but I think I focus more on one thing. But 3 years ago, my mom was murdered. And that changed what was important to me, completely changed what was important to me. So when you have these life experiences that can alter your priorities and even your love language, you have to revisit that and communicate it with your significant other. So that way they will know how to love you and how you receive love.
Right.
Because if not, you're pouring, you're giving a lot, but you're not loving them in their language. So it's often overlooked and taken for granted or not even received because like, man, I did this, I did that. And the person is like, you think that's what I wanted? That doesn't mean anything to me. And I will say, because this is something positive, this happened in my marriage. I'm like, man, I'm working hard. I'm busting my behind. I knew my wife was upset with me, but she said she was upset because I was spending too much time away from home, but I'm running a business. So my solution was I'm going to surprise her and with a car. And I went out. I spent over $50,000 buying a car, right? I'm like, oh yeah,
Why did you think that that equated to you spending time though?
being foolish. And like I said, because of what my love language was at the time. So I felt that this is how I express love. It was my language. So I was expressing love to her in my language and not hers. So and that was a $51,000 mistake because I literally surprised her with the car. I was like, hey, I need you to get to Charleston. Can you get someone to bring here, please? Someone dropped her off. Like, boom, here's the keys. And she looked at me, you know,
But I
she
would
did,
have too.
she didn't give the response or
I would
reaction
have too.
I'd
that
be
I
like,
was
what's wrong
right.
with you? Are you retarded?
And you all see is like, and then she said to me, do you think like that's what I care about? Like I want you here, you know, here with me and the boys. But I'm like, look, man, I'm making this money. I can drop 50,000 at a time and not sweat it.
But
But
can
that
you
was not,
drop a week of work and give me some time, some quality time,
And you the
some
laundry.
and that was her. No, I doing the
That's what she
laundry,
was
but
for.
I ain't doing the laundry, but it's funny y'all said that because what she did was she started making up stuff and like, I need you to take the boys to school. So that meant more to her that I would be out all night, come in and jump up and take the boys to school so that she can lay in the bed and rest for a couple of hours. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that meant more than those items. So I had to learn. And like I said, how important understanding those love languages and it's funny how you all really got it just like that as women. But as men, we think that because we value our time, our hard work, our effort, man, I did this, I did that, that you should receive that as my token of love. But a lot of times we communicate in different languages. I like this. Okay. My boo and I do a vision board every anniversary so we know each other's goals and have something to work on and also help motivate each other. This is some good stuff.
I like
But
that a
when you
lot.
said that you guys did a 5-year plan, that's why I was like, well, that was good because you had something to work on.
It was
But
great.
you also said
But
that
you have to
you
continue to
didn't
plan.
continue
And that's why
correctly.
where we did not do because we accomplished all of these things in the first 5 years. We made the
Right, because you had a
plan.
purpose.
And I said we should have done another 5 year plan and just
Mm-hmm.
go 5 year, 5 year. Oh man, we're down to the final 2 minutes, you all. And I want to thank everyone. I can't thank you all enough. The time goes by super fast. It's like as soon as
It
we get
does.
on and share some ideas, and I will say this, I'm planning a live show in Charleston. I'm working out the details. We're planning a live show for a live audience. So I would definitely like you all to be panelists, everyone that's here to be panelists, and our listeners can call in. We're going to have people that attend. And so anything in closing, what all would you like to share in our final 60 seconds?
Great
Final,
show.
final 60
Great
seconds.
ideas.
Find out what the metaphor means in your relationship. Lonely at the top.
Hey man, when we take an offering, man, 'cause y'all been preaching tonight, man.
I would like this to go to video. I would love this to go to podcast video. This is
Right. It
amazing.
definitely should. It is.
I appreciated this chat today. And I feel like the android's winning tonight because y'all can hear me.
Yes,
Yeah, yes, we are doing great.
we in there. Androids to the top.
Hey,
Again,
Coach
thank
Sean.
everybody.
Hey,
Good to
Coach
talk to
Sean.
everybody. I could
Yes.
listen to a full
Hey,
podcast,
you
but
know
I'll
we
be
all
busy.
church folk. I'm waiting on invitations.
Hey, and I apologize to our callers, Deborah, Boo, Chef Leo. The seats were taken. We only have 10 slots, and we have a few people that sat in the slots. And once the whole seats are taken, for some reason the seats are no longer available. But